Okay, it's Dr. Linder. In this next short video, we're going to talk about what makes up a muscle. And when we look at the histology of muscle, we need to be familiar with epimysium, perimysium, and endomysium. Now, here's the bone, right? We see the periosteum, which covers the bone. And then right here, we see the tendon. And over here, we see muscle fibers. So muscles and muscle fibers are going to contract, transmit their contractile impulse to the tendon. The tendon attaches to the bone by the periosteum and pulls on it. That's what creates movement. So here we're going to see number one, the endomysium, number two, the perimysium, and number three, the epimysium. And let's see if I can kind of simplify this. Let's say we have here, here, here. Let's do it again. Let's say here, here, here. Okay, so let's say around these fibers, these muscle fibers, we're going to create this endomysium, which are these layers around like this, these circles. Okay, that's an endomysium. And then I can then create another grouping around those and a group around that. These are called fascicles. And each of these fascicles, these layers here, are also known as the perimysium. So it's two names. Fascicle and perimysium, they're going to be interchangeable. But then I can group these fascicles and group these around one layer, and that's what we would call an epimysium. Okay. Same thing, we can look at it from this cross section here, right? We have skeletal muscle fibers. They're surrounded by endomysium. Then we can have a bundle of them called fascicles. Each fascicle is surrounded by a perimysium. And then you have a bunch of those fascicles all surrounded by an epimysium. And we could see the same thing. Here would be layer one, perimysium is layer two, and epimysium would be layer three, just from a different cross section. Okay. So each muscle fiber is surrounded by a connective tissue called an endomysium. You can have a group of anywhere from 10 to 100 muscle fascicles surrounded by a perimysium. It's also known as the muscle fascicle. And then you have a group of those fascicles surrounded by an epimysium. Okay. Then you have the endomysium, the perimysium, and the epimysium. They extend through the muscle to join at the very end to form tendons. And then those tendons are going to attach to the periosteum of the bone and make the bone move. Whenever we have a broad, flat tendon, we refer to that as an aponeurosis. Where will you hear the word aponeurosis? When you look at the biceps brachii and you look at the insertion, it's called a bicipital aponeurosis. When you look at the lats or the latissimus dorsi, the origin of that is called the thoracolumbar aponeurosis. Thoracolumbar aponeurosis, because the origin is on the lower six thoracic vertebrae, all of the lumbar vertebrae. So if you think of that, lower six thoracics plus the five lumbar, that's a pretty broad and long attachment site. So it's a broad, flat tendon. They call it the thoracolumbar aponeurosis. That's for the latissimus dorsi. And then fascia Fascia is a term that describes this clear, translucent, fibrous sheath of connective tissue that lies beneath the skin. It's deep to the skin, and it surrounds everything. It surrounds your muscles, your organs, your nerves, your arteries, your veins. Everything has fascia that surrounds it. Okay? And one of the problematic features of fascia is that it's highly adaptable, meaning think of what happens to a person who breaks their arm or breaks their clavicle and then their arm is held in a sling. So if the arm's in a sling for several weeks or the elbow is flexed and put in a cast because they broke their humerus or their radius, and the arm is in that shortened flex position for 4 or 5 weeks, maybe even more, when the cast is cut off, the arm remains flexed. And that's because of the fascia. It's highly adaptable when extremities or limbs are put in shortened position. Fascia is that clear connective tissue, like if you're a carnivore and you eat chicken, if you peel off the skin of the chicken, you could see the meat. The meat is the muscle. Then there's a thin, translucent sheath over that meat or the muscle. That's what fascia is. Okay. Okay, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the neuromuscular junction.